Those things have been bothering me for quite some time. Let me explain. Welcome back on Laughing Museums. My name is Cedric and thank you so much for watching. Today we're talking about the portraits of the Fayoum portrait. I'm not even sure how you say that. These are the first paintings of portraits ever made in the history of humanity. Yes, we're talking the entire planet, right? That's why they're so important in art history. Let me explain very quickly as I'm putting a few examples right there. You can find them almost all over the planet, right? My favorite one is probably the one that I saw at the Paul Getty Museum all the way back in Malibu, California. We have a few in the Louvre, in Paris, of course. You can see them in almost every single museums in Europe. And of course, I've seen them in Cairo in Egypt, as you can imagine. What happened with this is something extraordinary. Now, first, I want to get you back all the way to the Egypt of Alexander the Great. Then arrived the Romans after the Macedonians. And imagine a conversation between the Romans and the Egyptians. Let's make it one Roman and one Egyptian. The Roman go like this. How do you guys deal with death all the way in Egypt? Well, it's pretty simple. Death, life does not really exist for us. I mean, we come from somewhere, we keep the journey. Sometimes we're on horse, on kind of a boat. Then we keep going on another boat, and the journey keep going all the way till the soul is getting lighter and lighter, so we can become a ba is those fantastic birds that we symbolize with our heads on it. I love those paintings that you find everywhere. I'm putting right here. And then we become one of these. We arrive in front of Osiris, and it's kind of giving us a glimpse of his divinity. Yeah, I was trying to play Osiris on this, but a glimpse of his divinity, and we become some sort of small part of divinity herself. So pretty sure. I'm making a short version, but you see my point, Roman guy. What about you guys, the Romans? Kind of the same. We take a boat, we arrive on the Styx, and then we arrive at what we call the Champs-Élysées. Not the one in Paris, but stuff like that. It's pretty much it. So I guess we're not really good at dealing with death. We don't really think about that. I guess we try not to die, and that is true. The Romans were not dealing so well with death in a way that the minute you die, people are coming and making kind of a wax portrait. They're taking like a measurement and they're making kind of a wax figure and on a busto, then they wrap it with something, making it look like a bit of a clothes, and you can stay in the family with this famous busto. So they try to be immortal. They try to be immortal because they put fake hair, fake facial hair. So it was very realistic, those portraits, right? What happened then is the Romans are arriving in Egypt. They try to install themselves there, and they try to teach the Egyptians how to live like the Romans, with a lot of civil laws and civil rights. And the Egyptians like, whatever, but you can't really change a civilization that have 4,000 years history of very complex gods and goddesses system. So the Romans were like, okay, we're going to try to install some gods and goddesses, and it's a complete failure. They came up with a ridiculous kind of gods like this, which didn't work out. As a matter of fact, this god worked not in Egypt, but he became super famous under Caligula. Go figure, right? Nevertheless, they needed to have a common ground where everyone is the same. Yes, we have this kind of same. It's called death. That's why I was talking about it later, right? So this Roman people decide to get mummified Egyptian style because, they're fashion people, so let's go with fashion. In Rome, live like the Romans. Well, in Egypt, live like the Egyptians. I guess that was that. In the Fayoum, live like the Fayoum people, I would say, right? The Fayoum is a lake which is 140k south of Cairo, by the way. What interests me is there were painters going around using two kind of techniques, by the way, tempera technique or encaustic. Encaustic is a big name for wax that you mix with pigments, right? And you see it's interesting, it's giving really two types of portraits, very different. What interests me is like these Romans have people who come, portrait them in their full age, like when they're 20 or 30, when you look the best in your life, right? And they make their portrait, then they will keep their entire life until they die, and then they will get buried with these portraits. Before it was full body, was eventually a god. Anubis, for example, which is a guy who's supposed to drive you all the way there to Osiris, stuff like that. And then they realized it was too expensive, so they move it just mostly the portraits, kind of a busto. Remember the busto tradition of the Roman way to die, right? And that's why those portraits are so amazing. Those portraits are amazing. Why? Because those people look so realistic. Look at that third girl, that the one in Malibu we saw in the beginning. I love that girl in yellow, which is in the Louvre. I really love her. You got some guys as well. I love this one. This one is interesting because you look really like, I don't know, just something with the eyes that really interests me. Then you got the girl with the gold. I love the girl with the gold because that's how they decide to find when this was made. Basically, the period was from the early 1st century to the late 3rd century. And the way to know when these were made is mostly through numismatic and coins. So the idea is like if the empress decide to change her hair and to have new jewels, stuff like that, the entire empire will follow, right? And that's why we know exactly how precise that fashion was, because Egyptians were fashion victims as well as the Romans. It's funny because when you study art history, you realize fashion is probably coming all the way back from cave art, or even before cave art, for all I know, right? Two kind of techniques I was saying, the tempera and the encaustic. Well, I'm getting back to that because it's giving really two kind of different styles. When you go for tempera, you have something with a lot of angles, and that's why sometimes you look like almost cubist kind of painting. That's why I call it like a Picasso, Braque kind of painting. And when you go with the wax, you have something more like a Klimt. This one I think look exactly like a Klimt painting. That's amazing. Or you can go with something like look like the one I think look like a Rembrandt kind of painting. So you really have in those kind of a little less than 800 portraits we have left, which is huge, right? All the creativity, the genius of what human being can do back in the days, that is limitless. I mean, the limit was just imagination. We also have some kind of a average quality kind of a painting sometimes, but hey, that's what you get, right? It was not only the wealthy people. We got Proculus here and his wife. We consider they're actually the origin of the Fayoum kind of portraits. So everyone can get, just a painting. When you think about it, I mean, it can cost a fortune, but it can also cost not that much. So everything was working for the best. Thank you so much for this little introduction of the Fayoum portraits. I hope you learn and laugh a little bit. If you did, do your thing. You can talk about it. Don't forget, you can find the book on the Louvre down below. You can read the first 10% for free, and then it's a really non-expensive book, so please enjoy that. And no matter what you do, don't forget, if you're not doing it with a smile, well, I guess you're doing it wrong. You guys take care.